do Grandmasters really think? What is the thought process behind each moves, and what to think about, what to avoid, and so on? This is the topic of today's GM Talks, where I will take you behind the scenes on how strong Grandmasters really think, how they calculate, what they aim for, and what they try to avoid. This is an excellent game. It's very instructive. It's featuring two Uzbekis player who did very well at the Qatar Masters. Nodirbek Abdusattorov is clearly a coming world-class top 10 player. He has very great sports stamina, and Uzbekistan is still reigning Olympic champions, so they are pretty good, and this Vakhidov is not bad at all. So let's see how Abdusattorov goes about this game against a player he probably knows very well. So we'll try to explain every move. C4 is the English opening. It's a really nice opening. It prevents D5, because then you take, and it's not so easy to take it back, and white gets immediately a slight advantage in the center with an overweight of pawns, which is something you would like. So instead, black decides to try to play E6, open for the bishop, and ready to build a center with which is the queen's gambit after this move, and this is the orthodox queen gambit. In this situation, of course, white develops a knight, and black takes in the center. White goes into the queen's gambit, orthodox, and knight f6 is the real traditional variation of the queen's gambit, developing a knight and protecting in the center. White decides to play the exchange variation, which is well, it's considered one of the absolute critical openings, and a lot of black players actually, in this situation, they actually play this move to avoid it. Because it's considered to be nice to play for white, but recently, maybe because of the Carlsberg structure videos here on GM Talks, this has gotten a lot of attention from black players who have decided it's not so bad to play this exchange variation for black, and black is doing pretty well at the moment. So, but white gets very easy development, a slight overweight in the center, and some very nice straightforward plans like b4 with the minority attack, or f3 e4 building a center. If you want to know more about these plans, please go to the full course on the Carlsberg structure. Bishop d5 pins the knight and put more pressure on d5. Actually, white is threatening this move at the moment, which would be a very annoying, because you had to take back the pawn not to get it here. Black defends the pawn, white plays e3, get ready to get the bishop out, and having a harmonious and strong position, developing a bishop and preventing the pin here. So black is more free now. To have pins all over you is not that nice. Anyway, we'll go a little bit fast here in the opening phase. Don't worry, we'll get to the good stuff in a short while. Bishop d3, this is the most active post for the bishop. This square is important, and often you want to maybe attack h7 down here, which can be with the queen to c2. This you can just instantly, well, when you explain it, it makes perfect sense, but you can also feel it. The bishop belongs there. Playing it to this square here would be passive, right? Knight d7, developing the knight, and black is fast developing. This is one of the good things about the queen's gambit for black, is you're developing very fast, unlike for instance the Slav, where you are slowly coming out. h3. Okay, so why do white play h3? Well, first of all, one of the idea is to avoid this line, which some players like as black. I think Abdusattorov would have played this, and forcing this bishop off the board after something like this. Black is already fine, probably. It's not completely clear, but it seems like this has made black's position easier to play. So in order to avoid that, well, it doesn't avoid it actually, but in to be able to play something, also sometimes black can go knight e4, and so white plays this move, which is it's preventing knight h5 because that would be hanging, and it's also making ready to put this here and preserving the bishop for white. At the same time, it takes away this square, and it's often a very useful move for white to play h3. So h3 is a new refinement. It's something they've started to do a little bit. Castling here also makes sense. Black is always castling more or less most of the time, castling king side in this situation. Queen c2 makes a lot of sense again, putting pressure here, and this very important square, probably the most important square in the whole structure, is again under control. Rook e8, making room maybe for this move, but also putting pressure on here, and we also see that there are something in this square. Knight e2, with the rook e1, with the knight, with the pawn on h3, I think this is more common here. This would transpose to a known position, and in this situation, which is one of the main line, white can decide to castle queen side or king side. I think king side is the favorite move, and this has been dealt with. Yarmolinsky had a lot about it in his book. I think the road to chess improvement or something like that, and a nice book. And Karpov won a couple of good games in this structure. I think the best move for black here is probably to go g6, but it's a lot of theory. Instead, white decided to go knight e2. This is a completely different setup where white keeps this flexible, but I don't think it's maybe not sort of really mixing super well with h3. Still, the knight is not bad here. This is just another way of playing, and one of white's best plan is f3 and to go. So we try this color instead and go e4. Okay, knight f8, sensible move, over protecting this pawn here and getting this bishop out in the open. This is often the problematic bishop for black in a lot of openings. It's very difficult to develop, and one of white's key strategy is to make sure this bishop is bad. It's in the French, in the Caro-Kann, where you try to keep it down, and because the other pieces you can't really prevent them from getting to good squares, but this guy down here on c8 or girl is often a problem piece. Castle. And please remember, black cannot play knight e6. That would be a nice move to play, but white takes and takes on h7. So something like this runs into this move, and h7 is falling. So instead, black plays knight h5. That makes a lot of sense. In theory, this bishop is better than this bishop. But the problem is you can't really get out of this bishop on d5, but you would like to preserve this bishop, which also makes white's next move very weird. The natural move here would be to play here, take the bishop. After something like this, we have a full-fledged fight, but I think white would prefer to have the knight on f3 in this situation, so he will have knight e5 and so on, and it's not so easy to play f3 and e4 due to this pressure here. So and also why black has some ideas going forward here. So it's like it's gone a little bit wrong for white here, and h3 sort of white got a little bit confused along the way. Instead, he played a very weird move, and I'm sure it's a mistake. He played knight f4. And of course he would like to take. Then we have a nice decent position where he both have the minority attack, this idea to make this guy weak, but also the other plan here to play f3 and e4. But of course white will not take f4. He takes the bishop pair, of course, And already I think black is better. This guy here is really strong. You can always smell it, because when you have like all the central pawns on white squares, then the black squared bishop is usually pretty strong. This is sort of the Capablanca principle. And also having the knight out here, well, it's not gonna do a great deal here, and also it looks like they have some pieces on the king side, but it's nothing serious, right? And black is not getting bluffed here. He's not like playing g6 to kick the knight, because the knight is bad here on h5. It's gonna be a target when the queen comes out here or here. So instead he regroups. He says there's nothing here, nothing to see. I'm just gonna put my knight here, then I'm gonna get my queen out, and then I'm gonna attack your king and well, try and stop me. So I think it's already clear after bishop e7, white must feel, oh, this was not what I planned. This was really not the idea. So he goes back immediately. He realizes, okay, I'm not going to provoke g6, and bishop d6 immediately attacks it and trying to maybe threatening to win a pawn. It's not a really serious threat. Anyway, white is not so deterred by this move, and this bishop, even though you can like this structure here, looks like it's bad, but it's not that bad, and this would get a lot of squares on the king side, and you have an open file, and even though you have this pawn here, it's not a real big problem. So I think this solves white's problem. So, and also you can just sense it. This guy here is better than this knight here, right? So queen h4 coming up. And maybe white should just play e4 here, and trying to because it's not so easy for black could be risk getting blown away. So e4 is probably the best move. Instead he played king h2, and that makes a strange impression, right? Just putting it in the firing line of the bishop. White, of course, was a little bit afraid of something like this landing hard on his king in the near future. Maybe he was also afraid of bishop take d3. It is threatening a pawn, so he decided to go here, and he's probably planning to debunk it here, but it's sort of not really nice. Anyway, bishop d7. Why on d7 and not e6? Well, the thing is, we can just sense that a lot of things going to happen here on the e file, so black keeps it open. There's no reason the bishop on e6, if f pawn is might be coming not at the moment because of the bishop here, but it might be pushed here, knight f5 and so on. So there's no reason to put it on e6. It's not doing anything better there. Actually, it's in the way also for the knight. Queen d1. Of course, it does not threaten to play here at the moment, so I don't really understand the point of it. It does look like white is sort of losing his sense there. He's probably planning something like this, and here this could be the plan, even though it still looks good for black, right? And of course, Nodirbek is not getting scared. He's getting the knight out, and he's planning to put it here, and then something might hit on this square with a bit of vengeance, and white decides to panic a little bit. Okay, so he panicked. He played f4. He was probably necessary after king h2, but we just sense that this was not white's idea, putting the knight here, playing f4 and so on. It's not really, if you don't get an attack here, you're in trouble. But at the moment, there is a serious threat, knight f5, so black has to, and the thing is, you sort of think, okay, in this situation I can play f5, but then you realize, oh, this is just a disaster, and also the king can't get away. So So he is, and the knight will just go here, by the way, anyway. So what? So black is not panicking. White hoping to get something going. Still f5 does not look like a good move, and black just plays rook e7. So it's, and I really like the way the crystal clear play of Abdusattorov in this situation. It's just putting all the pieces on the right squares, and it's gonna get even better. I can promise you that it's gonna get even better. Okay, so white is trying to unravel the pin, and of course at this moment Vakhidov realized I'm worse. I'm much worse here, and I'm a little bit scared, and it's not so easy to get my piece out. Black's pieces are slowly getting into the best position. Still, f5 is no threat at all. Just go knight d5, and there's nothing to see here. So rook e2 and king h8. Getting, and this is always nice, making sure there's no f5 take with check or something like that. Also, not having it on a white square makes sense when white has a white squared bishop. This looks that this when I talk about things like that, people always find it very, very abstract. So what are you talking about? But it turns out in a lot of lines this just happens to be important. Anyway, white is overprotecting his weak pawns, and this move, by the way, I really like this move. Black is trying to find a plan. He's putting all his pieces on the optimal squares and saying, okay, let's start the demolition here. So maybe white was ready for f5, I'm not sure, but now black is ready for what? He's ready for d5. He's simply ready for d5, and if white takes here, then comes knight h5, and something serious is being hit here due to the nasty pin here. So also this square is staying under control. e4 is prevented because of the pawn here is hanging here. So and white decides, well, the thing is, even if he goes here, you still go g5, and what to do? You still forced to go into a bad position. And the thing is, if you look at white's position, it doesn't look that bad if you just take it as a picture. He's overprotecting all the weak squares, having white squared bishop and pawns on black and so on, but it's just not harmonious, and black comes with g5. So this was a very annoying pin that white have sort of inflicted on himself, and after g3, because of the pin here, he takes, he makes sure this weakness stays, and you can see that white is just reacting to black's move. Of course, these are now isolated pawns, but it's not a problem because black has the initiative, and this is a good general rule. When you're having the initiative, then in general the weaknesses are not that bad. You could just see it in, for instance, the Sveshnikov variation, where often your structure is getting totally messed up, or the King's Indian or something like that, and you manage to get the initiative. And this move is very nice. The idea is, of course, to go here and take over and see that where is the second weakness. This is the first weakness. Here is the second weakness, and of course this is still a problem for white, sort of making everything immovable, and of course the other rook can come here. So, and it doesn't change that much because what to do now? And black is and king g2. Well, I think he was getting a little bit panicky here. He's of course afraid of something like maybe something like this. Follow rook here and followed by this move, and getting the bishop out of the way could be unpleasant. That's one idea. Another idea is just to go back and then threaten knight f5. Another idea is just to play knight f5 and knight h4 and so on. So White is just in a horrible place here, and he, of course, this pin is annoying, so he decided to do this, but it looks weird. It looks like you're trying to run from the build, but you got no escape routes. the big waiter is blocking the exit, so where are you gonna go from here? Will have to pay, and Rook is coming. And we see that again, all Black's pieces are working here, and White's, well, completely panics now. He probably should just admit that the King D2 was wrong, go back into H2 and say, okay, I'm gonna see if I can stick it out here on the H file. It's not pretty, it's not nice, but maybe you could do something like knight E2 or something like that. Makes sense. Anyway, but White played a very weird move, knight h2, and this is a serious mistake. He probably miscalculated. Knight h5 was maybe, I don't know if he thought he could play knight d4, but that of course runs into f5 and it's all over. So he has to go with the king. And after this move, Black has a nice little move that really hurts. This move, and we see that White is losing this square. And after something like, for instance, say something like this, then comes the whole infiltration here, and this is just horrible. Gonna come a check again, and it's not gonna be pretty. So White decided, okay, I have to give up something here, and played knight g4, at least attacking, blocking and came to check, and take. And of course, White was hoping to get some counterplay here, and this is where you really get impressed also by the way Abdusattorov he plays this, because a lot of players, including myself, would be sort of getting a little bit lazy here, saying, okay, we got this, but no, he's gonna play really strong chess till the end. So he's gonna take it maximum here, attacking the rook to dissolve the pin, and attacking the pawn here. And after this move, and bishop e2, and we see starting to feel this pin is annoying, comes. I really like this move, rook e6, just very computer-like move, and just defending this, getting ready to move the rook. Of course, the knight is not taken, but what about f5? And you just go knight g7, and it's so nice that something like this is just not dangerous. This you just go, well, you can go knight e6 is easier, and you're just gonna stop and win the pawn. So, but I don't know. I think tactics like this are really hard to see for most players, but I think they come very naturally to Nodirbek, Abdusattorov. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of GM Talks, where I try to explain every move along the way, and hopefully reveal some of the secrets of Grandmaster strategy. And if you have not liked and subscribed and so on, you better start doing it. Thank you for